reason somebody decided to cancel the contract. How do all of these things actually affect me when we talk about that project, for example, as one of the ones that takes on this big chunk of change?
That's a very hard question, but let's start from the beginning. Paying somebody 7 billion for cancelling a project. I think I would like to become a contractor, to be getting free money for doing nothing. Can you imagine being paid 7 billion for doing nothing? But that's the nature of contracts, that there is a lot of money tied in the contract itself, that if you do this is what will happen. So I think Kenya avoided being dragged into deeper legal issues by just paying that. But you can see the French are also recovering because they are bringing more money, 12.5 billion in making the commuter rail. So what I suspect is that behind the scenes, there was some negotiation that you cancelled this, but you can give us this. But I still don't understand why that project was cancelled. To me, that was quite surprising.
Yeah.
Particularly knowing that it was, particularly if you consider the amount that was involved. Particularly if you consider the importance of that project. But one suspicion is that it is who signed it. It was a different president.
Yes.
And a new president wanted to be associated with
legacy project.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the way to look at it. Now back to your hard question. I was actually looking for time to think
about
it. Because it's a question everybody has been asking me, including my relatives, my friends, that if the economy is growing, why am I not feeling it?
Yeah.
So there's a time I passed around Girugin. I was going to Naivasha. And I found some young girls and boys, young men and women selling yogurt on the side of the road. And they told me that there used to be more money during Kanwera than now. And that was surprising to me. So I asked them, what do you mean? They told me, around that time, there was always some money, people buying yogurt from us and so on. They told me now we don't have. In fact, they have been removed from that place. So when you have big projects, like SGR, highways, superhighways, and so on. The economic expectation is that when you build this road, there are two ways people invest. In the short run, you employ people. People who build the roads, people who supply those products, and so on. So the economy is stimulated by these big projects. That's what John Maynard Keynes talked about almost 100 years ago, the stimulation effect of the government expenditure. So when you have such projects, people benefit immediately. But we hope that in the long run, more people will benefit. Because if you're an investor, it becomes easier for you to transport your goods and services.
Yeah.
If you're a farmer, if you are not doing any business, it becomes easier. So the cost of transport goes down. And if the cost of transport goes down, you take less time to do what you are doing, then the economy becomes more productive and everybody benefits.
Right. So
in the short run, very few people benefit. But in the long run, more people benefit. And that is why such projects should not be tied to politics. They should be tied to economic reality. So, for example, the road from Rironi to Mau Summit, we know definitely many people will benefit.
Yeah.
People from Narok, people from Western Kenya, people from Sudan, people from Uganda, people from Laikipia, people benefit. So it's a viable project. But the question is, as it is being constructed, are the people along that road thinking of what they will transport? Because a road can be there, but if you have nothing to transport or
you're not going to use it.
It doesn't benefit you.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that as we have these projects, the government is also looking at the multiplier effect. That this road is built, what are you going to do as a farmer? What are you going to do as a constructor? What are you going to do as an importer? So that at the end of the day, we all benefit from that.
Right.
The question is convincing politicians and convincing people like you and me that we shall benefit in the long run when the economy say we shall all be dead.
What would it take then? Because, I mean, these, as we say from this list, these are fantastic projects. They're great things. I mean, who wouldn't want their blue economy to survive or thrive, rather? Who wouldn't want health, commuter rail? Who wouldn't want things like, great digital hub at the University of Nairobi? Who wouldn't want that? But it's like going for plastic surgery when you need a triple bypass. That's what it sounds like to me.
See, my biggest concern is these projects are between France and Kenya. And they are imposed from bottom up. Because that's why it was a summit. The question is, if you ask Kenyans in the counties, what would they have wanted?
Right.
And that's the great disconnect between what politicians at the top want, what French want, and what people on the ground want. And they want what you have said. They want money in their pocket. And whether this project will be successful or not, whether the Mau Summit Road or SGR will be successful, depends on whether people will have money in their pockets. Because most Kenyans were not even following this summit. They don't know what was the discussion, but at the end of the day, they will be asking, can I get some money? Will I be able to pay my school fees? Will I be able to pay my medical services? So that connection is what we need. So that what people at the top think and what people at the bottom think, there's some convergence. And they see the benefits. And the other question we should be asking is, are we changing the economic environment so that I am able now to see the use of SGR, the use of that expressway, so that I'm a farmer, I become a better farmer. So if I'm working in a mining industry, I'm also mining better. If I'm a student, I realize now I need to work harder because when I finish school, there will be some work for me.
Right.
So we need to see, people need to see the future. And again, that's why I was talking about Vision 2030. That any big project we come up with should be part of a bigger picture like Vision 2030 and so on. It will not be interpreted by politicians.
Maybe, Prof, looking at it broadly, the heads of state now imploring President Macron and pushing for easy access to credit. Are we about to see a total shift in terms of economic dealing with remember that China has made great inroads in some countries in Africa. We've seen USA, we've seen our president saying that he's not looking east or west, but he must be looking somewhere. Are we about to see some total shift in terms of economic dealing?
Let's start with something you have mentioned that is very important, that these countries want easy access to credit so that you can get cheaper interest rates if you get a loan from China, from France, or wherever you get it. I think that is very important for countries because most countries run a deficit, so they're always borrowing money. But even before we go to that, we need to find out or to ask, are we getting easy credit as citizens of this country? Because one of the biggest innovations, or one of the biggest observations we made when Kibaki came to power, and people can contest that economically he did quite well, was easy access to credit. And that's why the economy did very well. If you have a project, you wanted money, it was very easy to get. That's when we found people hawking loans on the streets of Nairobi. So let's not just think about governments getting access to credit, but also individuals like you and me. When I looked at 2026 economic survey, one of the things that surprised me is the liquidity of the banks. They have a lot of money that they are not borrowing, or they are not lending because people don't feel that they are confident enough to borrow money and they invest. So on the architecture of economics, I think there has been a big shift since there has been a big push since President Ruto came to power for a new global financial architecture.
Yes.
Because he says that it is skewed against Africa, which is true because if you look at the reserve currency, if you look at who borrows and who is rent, if you look at who pays interest rates, it's normally the less developed countries. But remember the global architecture that we have today, financial architecture, have been there since World War II, end of World War II. The Bretton Woods institutions, the IMF, the World Bank, and so on. So the only way to reduce the effect or the power of that architecture is to come up with a counterweight. So like now the US has a counterweight, which is China. Because as the president says, he's neither facing east nor facing west because he has a choice.
You have a choice.
There was a time there was no choice. You could either face one or the other.
Right.
So if we have to reduce the effect of these global economic players, World Bank, IMF, US, and the rest, we need to counterweight. But if I ask you, what is a counterweight to IMF? What is a counterweight to World Bank? What's a counterweight to all these big institutions? So unless they have a counterweight, their power will continue. So I think President Ruto has a good dream that we need a more playing field in a global financial architecture, but so far we don't have any counterweight to the big players. And we hope, people have been talking about BRIC and so on, but so far we still have the dollar, the euro as the key reserve currencies, not the yuan or the dirham and the rest, not yet. The question is, who is going to bail the cat?
Indeed.
Is it President Ruto?
Who is it President Ruto? Because the way he talks, it's like he's actually the new entrant. He's fairly new because you can see Museveni have been here for 40 years. We've seen Kagame, he's now doing more than 20 years. We've seen all the other presidents. The president of Tanzania, Samia